Hi everyone, Christina from Healthy Blessed Family. I'm coming to you live from my tiny kitchen. We live in a small 2-bedroom apartment, but I make it work. Let me turn off that light because that might be distracting. Okay, that's better. Hopefully some people will join us, and but if not, I'm going to make this in this video. You can hashtag replay in it if you want. And this morning is Good Friday, celebrating Jesus's passion and death, and so we try to live liturgically in our home as Christian Catholics, and so I wanted to do hot cross buns for my girls this morning. And so I thought, might as well come on and do a cooking video. And so it's my first time doing it, so please bear with me. But I'm sure it will be fun. So the first thing we're going to do is preheat our oven to 375 degrees. My stool is always out because I'm short. And I always forget to put it away. The next thing we're going to do is line our baking sheet. So just a normal standard baking sheet that can fit like 10 rolls on it with parchment paper. Now I've learned to get my parchment paper to stay is to crunch it up and then to pull it back out and put it on my cookie sheet. And I'm going to go ahead and spray mine lightly with coconut oil spray just in case. I mean, it doesn't say to do that, but I don't know. Okay, so now we're going to start making the dough. And it says, in a large bowl, whisk together the dry ingredients for the buns. So, and in the description below, there is a link to this recipe. And so I'm going to start off with 2 cups of almond flour. And then 1.5 cups of whey protein unflavored. I'm using my KitchenAid mixer only because it makes my life easier. I mean, you could totally whisk this up in a bowl if you wanted, but I like using my KitchenAid. It's one of my favorite tools in the kitchen. And then it says 1.5 teaspoons of Axum gum, which you could also use glue key if you had glue key, but I have Axum gum. And then it says 2 teaspoons of baking powder. me know in the comments, like, what are some ways that you, is there any traditions that you have in your family for Good Friday or even Holy Thursday or Easter? Let me know in the comments. And then it's 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. One teaspoon of allspice. And I forgot to get out my nutmeg, so let me grab that. It's half a teaspoon of nutmeg. And a 1/4 cup of sugar substitute. So like if you had Exitol, erythritol, or monk fruit, it'd be a 1/4 cup. But if you're using gentle sweet, or if you're using super sweet, it's going to be 1.5 tablespoons for super sweet, or 3.5 tablespoons of gentle sweet. I'm going to use gentle sweet. For me, I have just found I love their sweeteners the best. And so I always have a handy dandy thing that tells me, that helps me convert. 1, 2, 3, 1.5. So that's all my dry ingredients. It was almond flour, whey protein unflavored, Axum gum, baking powder, cinnamon, allspice, nutmeg, and my sugar substitute, which I used gentle sweet. And now I'm going to just whisk this stuff together, so it might be loud for a few minutes while I do that. I just want to make sure that it's combined really well, mixed thoroughly. Like I said, my KitchenAid makes it so much easier. Okay, so now I want to add pour in my whipping cream and my melted butter and then mix that together. So it was a 1/4 cup of melted butter, and I already melted my butter in the microwave. So I'm just going to pour it in to my thing. And then it's 1 cup of heavy cream. So yes, this would be a heavy S because we are having the heavy cream in it. And in my more mature mama season, which I am in, I don't eat a lot of heavy S's anymore. But you know, around the holidays, I don't mind. You know, certain times I don't mind having that heavy S. And it's mainly for my kids. So this is, you know, important for them. And you know, and it's a treat that it's something that I can have on plan, so I'm not going off plan, and I'm able to live liturgically with my kids. And because we are using, this is sugar free because we are using natural sweetener. So that's what makes it wonderful. So I'm going to start back up my KitchenAid for just a couple of minutes. And now I'm going to add So I'm going to start adding in the water while it's stirring, and it will form a thick batter. I also need to add a teaspoon of vanilla. So I'm going to add a teaspoon of vanilla. Vanilla extract. I got mine at Costco. And then it's a 1/4 cup of water. And it says to add it while it is stirring. Okay. And it did make a thick batter. Let me rinse off this real fast. All of it off my beater as much as I can. And then it says to use wet hands to make 10 smooth dough balls. I'm going to use my cookie scoop because I love my cookie scoop, so that's what I'm going to use to make my balls. So let me do that, and then I'll show you what it looks like. going to make 2 cookie sheets the way I'm doing it. So, this is how mine looks. And I'm going to bake these in the oven for 10 to 15 minutes or until the top is a golden brown. I'm going to start at 10 minutes and see how they do, because you never know. And then while that is going, I am going to make the icing. So for the icing, it calls for a 1/4 cup of sugar substitute. I'm using Gentle Sweet because I was out of my Swerve confectioner. I thought I still had more, but can't find it. So 1/2 cup would be a 1/4 cup plus 1 teaspoon. So I'm going to put this is a 1/4 cup. What I did was I took Gentle Sweet and I put it in the coffee grinder and just made it into a powder consistency. So there's my sugar substitute. And then it says to add 1.5 teaspoons of lemon juice. And also to add 1.5 to 2 teaspoons of water. So I'm going to start with 1 teaspoon of water. Stir it and see what happens. This should be a gel-like consistency. I think I'm just going to add 1/2 teaspoon of water because it says 1.5 to 2. So this is what my icing looks like. You can see that. So it's kind of runny, but sort of gel-like. And so after my hot cross buns come out of the oven, I'm going to let them cool before I add the icing. It says you can add the icing into a piping bag or a sandwich bag to make crosses. I'm not that fancy. I'm probably just going to brush the icing onto the rolls with a pastry brush. But you know, it's up to you, whatever you want to do. So I'm going to let you go because it is Good Friday, and I hope that you have an excellent Triduum over the next 3 days. If you are Catholic, and if you're not and you're Christian, I pray everyone has a blessed Easter. If you're Jewish, happy Passover. So I hope everyone has a blessed Easter or Passover, and I will talk to everyone later. Have a great weekend. Bye.